Hey there, nerds. Jim and Chase here, and we wanted to give you guys our top 10 movies for 2014. Now, if you're not familiar with Chase and his writing on Nerdlocker.com, he is our best reviewer, in my opinion, for films, so definitely check him out. What do you say, Chase? How's it going, bud?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So, let's get right to it. Number 10. What is your
Uh,
10th favorite film?
for my number 10, I put Edge of Tomorrow. It's by far the most underrated film of the year. Uh, Phenomenal storytelling. It took a kind of filmmaking that is usually repetitive, constantly showing the same day over and over again, and it executed it in a way that made it interesting, made it funny. It was just all around a very underrated film, and unfortunate because it didn't make the money to garner a sequel, and it makes the Hollywood executives nervous about trying anything new, which sucks.
Well, I find it weird that it seems like it was a very popular movie, but then they renamed it when it came out on video. That's weird to me.
Yeah, they said that the title confused people, so they changed it to Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. I found it completely understandable with their first title, but you know, I guess they got to make their money.
Well, very cool. Now that it's on the top 10 for you, hopefully people will go check it out. I've heard a lot of great things about that. I know some people are anti-Tom Cruise, which I understand from his personal life, but when it comes to acting, I really think he's entertaining. I don't know how you could just turn him off just because of his politics.
He's definitely a leading man. You know, I mean, earlier in the year, was that this year or last year? He did Jack Reacher. Again, a very underrated film, probably because, like you said, people don't like Tom Cruise, but he nailed it in that one too. Which is why he asked that director to do the new Mission Impossible. So that's coming too.
Very cool. Very cool. Definitely have to check that one out. So what's number 9?
For my number 9, I think a lot of people will agree with this one. Guardians of the Galaxy. Uh, Marvel. Uh, They really can't do any wrong. It doesn't seem like. Definitely up their game when they signed with, or they signed a deal with Disney, and I mean the soundtrack alone is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Rainbow earlier, and I don't get to see nearly as many movies as you do. And I had this as one of my top ones because I could just watch it over and over and over again. Chris Pratt is amazing. I love that dude. So glad he's getting a shot to be a leading man. Lee Pace as the bad guy, I didn't even recognize him. And I loved Pushing Daisies. I didn't even recognize him as the bad guy, so that was awesome. We finally get to see Thanos, which is awesome. Really, really loved it. I couldn't agree more. Good pick.
And you know something I gotta acknowledge with Marvel is they see a lot of talent in relatively unknown directors. If they had based their opinion on James Gunn off of his previous work, I don't know that it would have worked because he did. I know he did a segment in movie 43, which I don't know if you ever saw. That was just god awful. So
I don't know what
it,
you're
it,
talking about, man. That was hilarious.
it was so bad. I don't know how they got so many actors in it.
There's some amazing actors, and what they got them to do. Uh, Hugh Jackman and Kate Winslet sticks
Yeah.
out. I don't know how they got them to do that. And then Halle Berry beats me. Amazing.
Yeah, they really see potential in people, and I'm really glad they gave him a chance because, well, I mean, that movie speaks for itself, definitely.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's coming in at number 8?
Number 8, again, is a very, in my opinion, underrated film, but they didn't really release it wide immediately, so I can understand that. I chose Chef, put at number 8, directed by John Favreau. He did the Iron Man movies. Before he did big Marvel movies, he used to do really small, low budget films. Like I think he did Made, if I'm not mistaken. He's written a few other really good ones, but with Chef, he really goes back to his roots. It's very relatable. I watched an interview with him when he was talking about it, and I really like what he said. He said it's like an R-rated family film, which is the perfect way to describe that movie. And not to mention, it makes you hungry as hell. The food looks so delicious in that movie.
Yeah, he's a favorite in our house for what he did with Elf. It's
Oh,
amazing how he can go back and forth with serious, heady, mature stuff, and then he still made Elf, which is an amazing kids movie. I love that movie. So I've heard a lot of good things about Chef. It was one of those the little movie that could, because it got released, like you said, not too much fanfare, but then it started building an audience, and even a couple months after it was out, it was still in theaters, and I still kept hearing people talk about it. So that was a cool one.
yeah, it definitely spread through word of mouth, which is always cool to see, especially when it's a movie that's worthwhile. There's a lot of movies that aren't, as you know.
Yes, sadly, there's too many of those. So what's coming in at number 7?
Number 7, again, very unheard of movie. I can understand why. It's a very obscure film called Enemy. I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but it's directed by, I think it's Denis Villeneuve. He did a more well-known film last year called Prisoners. You heard of that one? Enemy also stars Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a very metaphorical movie. It really asks more questions than it answers, and I really appreciate movies that make you think long after, and it definitely did.
That's really cool. Yeah, I don't know much about this film. I just remember our buddies over in Austin at the Alamo Draft House got to see this one early, but I haven't seen it yet. Very cool. I'll have to check in on it.
I can definitely understand why people wouldn't like it though. It's very slow, very weird. It ends kind of abruptly without any real clarity as to what happened exactly. But if you can allow it to do what it does and accept what you're saying, then I think you'll enjoy it.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's coming in at number 6?
Number 6, I chose Gone Girl. I gotta be honest. I think that I knew it was gonna be in my top 10 just from who directed it. I'm a David Fincher fanboy. Uh, Visually alone, there's no one like him. I'm pretty sure he's notorious for making his actors do a certain scene 50 to 60 times alone. He wants, if they're throwing a book on the table, he wants the book to spin a certain way. I like the meticulous way he works, and I won't lie, I kind of like the more demented movies. He definitely delivers on that front. So, and then Gone Girl was, I just loved it.
Actually haven't seen Gone Girl yet. I was talking to Rainbow earlier and explained that because I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, I don't get to the theater very often, and my wife and I really want to see it, but that one slipped through the cracks, so we didn't get to see it yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you know his past works, you know how dark it will be, and it is. And if you like that, then I definitely recommend it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm a big Fincher fan, so it's on the list. It'll probably be seen when it comes out on video.
Yeah, and I think we were talking earlier about Alien 3. Probably wouldn't waste my time on that one. He's even publicly said that he doesn't like that movie. He really got told what to do with that one, and it didn't come out how he wanted it. So he doesn't acknowledge that one even. So I wouldn't waste my time with that one.
I've heard rumors that there's a cut somewhere of his vision of Alien 3 before 20th Century Fox killed it, and I would love to see that. I think that would be amazing.
I'm pretty
I
sure
doubt it'll
there's
ever see that.
I'm pretty sure there's an unrated version or something, but if it's his version, I don't know. That would be cool though. I'd definitely be interested to see it.
Yeah, he's got an amazing mind. All right, sir. Coming in at number 5, what do we have?
Number 5, I chose Boyhood. directed by Richard Linklater. A lot of unknown actors. The girl who plays the daughter in the movie is actually his real daughter. There's Ethan Hawke, Patricia Arquette, a few other mostly unknown people, but it's a really slow movie. There's no real beginning, middle, or end. It's just a glimpse into this boy's life as he grows up. What I love so much about it is it's relatable. It it, it made things that felt insignificant at the time feel important. It didn't belittle anything that you might have experienced when you were a kid. And it's very relatable. It reminded me of things I didn't even know were in my head. So it's really a really great movie.
That's cool. That's another one I didn't get to see, but I really like Richard Linklater. He takes risks. And he does a lot of cool stuff. One of my favorites is Days Confused, one of his earlier ones. But when he
Yeah.
did his rotoscoping thing with Waking Life and then A Scanner Darkly, very cool. But then he does just like Bad News Bears and The School of Rock, and you're like, what? Really? All right, cool. So he's a fun dude. He does some cool stuff.
Yeah, he did I'm not sure the exact if there's an overall title for these movies, but he did what I call the Before trilogy. Again, another movie starring Ethan Hawke, and I forget the girl's name, but there's three of them. I think it's Before Sunrise, After Sunset, something along those lines. But I think one of them has a rating of 99%, and the others have 100%. So he's considered to have made some of the greatest romance movies ever. So he's definitely got the talent, and something that really drew me to Boyhood from a technical standpoint is they filmed that over 12 years.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
If you think about how much can really go wrong in that amount of time, for it to work out as well as it did is nothing short of remarkable.
That's very cool. I remember reading your review for that posted on Nerdlocker, and I was really impressed. So again, when I get a chance, I want to check that one out. So number 4. God, we're already to 4. What's number 4?
Number 4 is called Whiplash. Uh, the plot, it doesn't sound very exciting. It's a young man who wants to get into a very prestigious music school to be taught by someone who's considered one of the greatest teachers ever. And he knows that if he can be taught by this man, he'll reach his goal of becoming one of the greatest drummers that ever lived. Unfortunately, this teacher, is quite possibly one of the worst people that ever lived. He's berating physically, mentally. He has a line in the movie. He says, "The worst thing someone can tell you is good job." He doesn't believe in supporting you or holding your hand. He believes by pushing someone beyond their limits, even if it's mental terrorism, if that gets them there, that's what he'll do. And it makes for some of the best acting I've seen all year, specifically from the leads, Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, I believe his name is. He played J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies, the original Spider-Man movies. And like I said, it doesn't sound very exciting, but the finale, the climax of the film, is one of the most intense endings I've ever seen, ever.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of J.K. I think that dude is so underrated. The things he appears in, you're like, man, awesome. I'm not terribly familiar with Miles. I know he's in the next Fantastic Four, so I'm curious to see more of him. And then I just looked it up, and I saw Paul Reiser's in it. I haven't seen that dude in forever, so that's pretty interesting.
Who's he again?
Paul Reiser, he used to be, what was that TV show with Helen Hunt? Mad About You. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, he plays the father. I forgot. Okay.
He was also in Aliens.
What's funny about Miles Teller is he actually made it. He's in another movie that's on my 10 worst of the year. So it's kind of funny that he can be on both.
Both spectrums. I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what do we have coming in at number 3?
Number 3 is by far, it's in the same vein as Enemy. Very obscure, very weird. It's called Under the Skin. In my opinion, it's Scarlett Johansson's best film that she's ever done. Uh, Directed by Jonathan Glazer. I'm blanking on the other movies he's done.
Oh, he did Sexy Beast. I love that film.
Yes, thank you. Well,
That's a
with
great film.
Ben Kingsley, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. But I mean, it's so the word I've heard a lot is ethereal, and I think that captures it very well. Very otherworldly, but it also has this underlying theme that's very human, and it's told from the viewpoint of an alien. And it's just a fascinating story. The soundtrack is one of the best I've ever heard. It's very odd. There isn't really any music. It's more tones and electronica, I guess you would say. But it's one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time.
Very cool. That's really cool. Getting down to the nitty gritty here. Number 2, what do we've got?
Number 2, I chose Birdman. The only reason I didn't choose this as my favorite of the year was because of what number 1 did, and I'll get to that in a minute. But with Birdman, there's no flaws in this film, from acting to dialogue to script to cinematography. They made the entire film look as if it was shot all in one single shot, obviously through tricks and editing. But it's one of the most fascinating movies I've ever seen in my life. And,
Did you see that here in Vegas?
huh?
Did you see that here in Vegas?
Yeah, I saw it. I think I saw it at Green Valley Ranch.
Oh, I don't know how I missed that. Darn it. Yeah, I love Michael Keaton. I think he's awesome. There's a
He was
movie.
perfect in it.
There's a movie that everybody thinks stupid, but I think is amazing, called Multiplicity, and his acting over the 4 characters that he plays, it's brilliant. I love watching that film because he's able to capture drama, comedy, and just out in left field. He's an amazing actor that to me is so underrated. So I was really happy to see the popularity of Birdman. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet.
I kind of like it's not an inside joke per se, but it's kind of a unspoken of joke that he's a washed up actor who used to play a superhero. And he, of course, used to play Batman. So there's that whole kind of funny side to the whole thing, and they kind of make fun of it a little bit.
That's very cool, and I'm not terribly familiar with this director, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, but I saw on his director sheet is 21 Grams a while ago, but I remember that film. That was a great film.
That was with Naomi Watts too, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Wow, that's very cool. So if Birdman is number 2, what is number 1, sir?
I have a feeling I'm going to get crap for this one, but I want to explain myself first. For number 1, I chose Interstellar. I chose it over Birdman mainly for the experience I had. I was very lucky enough to see it at a private press screening. So it was a theater full of people who know how to be quiet. There was no one talking, no one interrupting. I got to see it on a full scale 70 millimeter IMAX. And for 3 hours, it took me away to another world. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And then, the movie itself is stunning. I mean, I'll be the first to acknowledge that there are flaws. That's not lost on me, but it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in a movie.
This is one of the few ones on the list that I have seen. I had sort of a reverse viewing experience in that you saw it before it was even out, and I saw it probably 2 months. It's almost like a week ago or 2 weeks ago that I finally got to see it. So it had been out quite a while. But again, there was very few people in the theater, so it was quiet. The people who were in there had actually seen it several times, and they wanted to go back again, which baffles me anytime people do that in a movie theater, unless it's a great movie. I think part of my problem was it was so hyped up. I didn't leave the theater like, oh, that was amazing. But since I've seen it, I cannot stop thinking about it. That movie is just the visuals are amazing. I hate calling Nolan movie twists because to me twists are reserved for M. Night Shyamalan and his crappy movies. But the way Nolan tells his stories, they're phenomenal. Down this path, and all of a sudden you go this way, and you didn't see it coming, but it makes complete sense once you have all the puzzle pieces in place. And I love that. I love how he explained the end. Like, we had a resolution. I was afraid we would end up in the third dimension out of 5, and that was going to be the end. But no, he satisfied my need for Hollywood endings, and I loved that. I was very, very happy with that.
So you like the happy ending more than the ambiguous ending?
I did. Not that I had a problem with like Inception and not knowing. That was fine because even at that, I think we got an ending, and that was fine. I was just afraid we weren't going to see a resolution between Murphy and Matthew McConaughey's character. I was really afraid we weren't going to see that, and it was great to see that. And the way they did it was really cool. I love the science associated with this film. And I love the way a certain overweight actor suddenly appears as a bad guy, which I totally did not expect. I didn't know he was in that movie at all. So that was cool.
He was originally unlisted. I can't think of the word. He's not listed in the...
Unfunded?
Yeah. And how about the emotional weight to it? I didn't see that coming. You know, just when he's stuck on that water planet or whatever they called it. They're there for maybe a couple of hours, and all of a sudden it's been over 20 years.
Yeah, they return back to the shuttle.
That part when he's seeing those video messages from over 20 years, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. And you see how mad his daughter is, and his son is basically giving up, thinking he's dead. That was a tough one. And you're right, that water planet. Poor Wes Bentley, man. Wow. Just the way they leave the water planet, they get out of the skin of their teeth, and they do one final shot, and poor Wes Bentley is just face down in the water, obviously dead. And you're like, that sucks.
There's a lot of moments where you're just trying to wrap your head around it. You know, they're talking about the astronaut that arrived there before them. She had probably only been there a couple of hours before then.
Yep.
But because of relativity, it had been, I don't remember how much time had passed, like over 50 years or something.
Yeah.
So that astronaut probably had died 10 minutes before they got there, which is amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I love the science of it. My only problem with that movie, and it's been explained in a way that I can understand, be like, oh, okay, I can let that go. But it's sort of the Terminator argument. Well, who was the first person that sent that information back to Murphy and Matthew McConaughey? Because if it's Matthew McConaughey in space, well, who sent them the coordinates to get Matthew McConaughey to NASA? Because if he doesn't make it to NASA, then he's not in space sending the coordinates back.
Are you talking about... Huh. You remember that they sent astronauts prior to them, right? Many years before.
Right, but when the dust is settling on the boards, and it's Matthew McConaughey hitting the books in the third dimension when he's already in the future,
okay,
that's him sending the code back. Well, if he's sending the code back, who was the first person that did it to give them the coordinates to go to NASA? Because if he never gets to NASA, then he's never in the third dimension sending that information back.
I don't know what to tell you there. Like I said, I know there are faults with it, but it was.
Well, the explanation that was given to me was, well, because there's 5 dimensions and we don't understand, but they do, and they are the ones that there's no real timeline to them. It's all relative. Time, gravity, space, all of it's relative. So even though we're seeing it in this linear that they made for us to be explained, they can see it in 5 dimensions, so that it really didn't necessarily hold on this timeline. Flimsy, but it's at least an explanation for me.
Sounds kind of like a scapegoat, but I'll go with it. You know.
Don't worry, nobody has still explained to me if John Connor sends Kyle Reese back and Kyle Reese has sex with Sarah Connor so that John Connor is born, who sent Kyle Reese back the first time?
I thought it was
Because
John
Kyle
Connor.
Reese never comes back, then John Connor's never born.
Time.
Oh, yeah, the very first
Yeah,
one.
I don't know.
See, never been explained to me. Come on, Cameron. Get on that, James. Want to hear it. Anywho, I digress. Man, that's a great list. Top 10. That's fantastic. Do you have some honorable mentions?
I do. I went up from 15 down to 11. I don't know if that makes sense. But at 15, I put John Wick, movie with Keanu Reeves.
That flew under the radar, too. And I'm wondering if it's sort of the Tom Cruise effect that people are sick of Keanu. I don't know.
I don't know why. He seems like the nicest dude ever. Have you ever seen him in interviews? He seems like the most kind-hearted person. And it's unfortunate.
I think people just take him for, dude, whoa, and they just don't, I don't know, they don't, I don't know. I enjoy him.
Yeah, it was I don't know their names, but it was directed by some stuntmen who have been working with Keanu Reeves since the Matrix days. So they really knew how to do the physical part, but where they really shined was not. There's actually a story to it that makes sense, and the camera work. I mean, you can tell it's Keanu Reeves doing it. It's not shaky, not blurred. They're not trying to hide something. There's such long takes. You remember a movie called Collateral?
Oh, yeah. Tom Cruise, Jamie Farr?
Yeah, do you remember the club scene?
Yeah.
There's a scene kind of similar to that in John Wick,
Oh.
but I consider this one even better. It's a very, I haven't seen it more than the one time I saw it, so I don't remember perfectly, but I don't really recall any major editing in it. It seemed like to be one big, swift, smooth shot, just Keanu taking dudes out, and it was awesome.
That's very cool. Very cool. So that was 15?
Yeah.
Cool. What's 14?
Number 14, I chose Blue Ruin. It's, another revenge movie like John Wick.
Right.
Blue Ruin, I can't remember. Hold on. I have a page. Bear with me one moment.
I don't recognize any of these. Eve Plum? Oh, that's hilarious. Ah,
What's up?
Eve Plum, she's in it. She's one of the original Brady Bunch actresses.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
I
recognize
see.
any names.
Okay, I guess the main guy's name is Macon. Rhymes with bacon. Macon Blair. He's unknown to me. But it's directed by this guy named Jeremy Saulnier. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm definitely interested to see, what's next for this guy. It's very stripped down, very simple revenge film. He finds out that someone who wronged his family a long time ago is getting out of prison based on a technicality, and that's all he needs. He goes at it. The best part is he's not a trained killer. This isn't, Denzel Washington and Man on Fire. This is he was homeless for a long time, and he does the best he can to get after this guy, and he gets him relatively early, and that just creates this just cluster. I don't want to say any of that word, but it's a gnarly film. It's very graphic in its violence, which I appreciate. I don't want to say like I like the violence. I like the technical part of it. I know there's people that are making the blood splurt out and things like that. I like that kind of thing.
That's awesome. Very cool. So that takes us to number 13. What's up for 13?
13, I chose Fury with Brad Pitt. It's directed by David Ayer, which again, David Ayer has a movie on my top 10 worst also for this year. So
Nice.
everybody has their faults, I guess. But what I liked about Fury so much is he likes to show realism and violence. He doesn't like to shy away from it. I like to call that the Scorsese effect, in that Scorsese doesn't shy away from the violence. He doesn't pan the camera over it. He shows Joe Pesci stabbing the dude in the trunk. He show it, and David Ayer really likes to show things, and there's a purpose to it though. It's not just excessive violence for no reason. Really showing to an extent what these World War II tank operators went through, and it's a really heavy story, very well acted, and just all around a very good movie.
Very cool. Very. I've heard a lot of good things about that one. Again, it's in the theaters. Didn't get time to go see it. I know Shia LaBeouf is crazy, and I know he has a lot of detractors, but I like a lot of films he's in, so I'm always a fan of seeing him. And Brad Pitt, that dude, he's just an amazing actor. I know a lot of people, I think he's gotten over this, but a lot of people think of him as that pretty boy. But dude can act. I love him.
Yeah, I think you need to put Shia LaBeouf in that Tom Cruise category of ignore his outside exploits and just appreciate him as an actor. As an actor, I think he's got a lot of chops, and I'm not going to even get into Indiana Jones. I blame that one on George Lucas personally.
Yeah, I agree. I can't defend George. Not this time. Anywho, number 12. What do you got?
Number 12, I chose Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal, directed by I believe his name's Dan Gilroy, brother to Tony Gilroy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him,
Sure, sure.
but he wrote and directed it. Uh, Beautiful script, a lot of juicy dialogue scenes that the actors they really ate it up. You could tell they were having fun with it, and then just Jake Gyllenhaal, he deserves an Oscar nomination for this. In my written review, I likened him to Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. He likes the nightlife. He's very demented. The reality is a distant thing for him, and he thinks he's doing things for the betterment of others, including himself. But he's really just causing chaos, and he's just crazy in it, and he does it so well.
That's impressive. I just looked up Dan Gilroy, and he's only got that as his directing credit, but he wrote a movie back in '92, which I love very fondly, called Free Jack, starring Emilio Estevez and Mick Jagger.
I know it.
Oh my lord, I can't believe this dude wrote that movie. It's fantastic. And you out there in Nerdland, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It is crazy stupid.
It's one thing I really liked about his performance is he's not someone who's normal that goes into crazy town. He's already in it.
That's
And
cool.
and what I like so much is you think he's at a point where he couldn't possibly get crazier, and sure enough he does. He gets worse and worse, and it's fascinating to watch. It's by far the best character study if you're into that kind of thing.
Very cool. So what's next?
Number 11 is called The Babadook.
Oh, I remember reading a review on this, and I was actually terrified just from your review.
It's one of the best horror films of the decade. What's so great about it is it's not a straight horror film. It's a drama in the vein of a horror movie. It uses the a story element of a monster to propel what the actual story is, and that's grief and loss of someone you love, and how do you deal with that kind of thing. And the main lady, Essie Davis, never heard of her before. but she deserves an Oscar nomination for this. I said it in my review. She's both wicked and you feel bad for her at the same time. And I don't know how she did it, but she knocked it out of the park. One of the best performances I've ever seen.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, fantastic, man. That's a great top 10 and a great honorable mention list. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, about the Babadook. Don't go into it thinking you're gonna see a monster movie because it's not a monster movie. It's not a typical jump scare movie. Uh, got a good story. Just don't go in thinking it's a monster movie at all, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you very much, Chase.
Thank
Great
you.
list. And all you nerds out there, stay tuned. Coming soon, he will also have his worst movies of 2014.